When a black boy boarded a first-class flight wearing a neat suit and clutching a worn leather briefcase, passengers whispered. But it was the flight attendant's smirk that cut the deepest. "Sweetheart, first class isn't for playing dress-up," she said, her tone sugar-coated with superiority. The boy's eyes lowered, his innocence crushed beneath judgment. But as turbulence hit and chaos unfolded, the truth about who he really was would send shockwaves through the cabin and change that airline forever. Watch until the end. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Darius was only 12, but his father had always told him to dress like the man he wanted to become. Today, he wore a navy blue suit, the same one he had saved up for by mowing his neighbor's lawns. His mother had recently passed, and his father, a janitor at a massive tech corporation, had insisted he visit his uncle across the country for a change of scenery. Darius didn't know much about wealth or power. All he knew was his father's lesson. Respect starts with how you carry yourself. As he boarded the flight, clutching his small briefcase and his mother's photo inside, he smiled politely at the crew. But not everyone smiled back. The flight attendant's eyes narrowed. She saw his dark skin before she saw his soul. And in that moment, her prejudice began to write its own cruel story. The flight attendant, Melissa, took pride in maintaining class in the first-class cabin. So when she saw Darius take a seat near the window, surrounded by business executives and wealthy travelers, she frowned. "Excuse me," she said sharply. "This section isn't for coach passengers." Her words drew attention. Whispers spread like wildfire. Darius hesitated, reaching into his pocket to pull out the golden first-class ticket his father had worked overtime to buy. But before he could explain, she snatched it, examining it as if it were counterfeit. "You must have taken someone's seat," she said with a laugh that made nearby passengers chuckle. The humiliation stung. One man even muttered, "Figures." Darius's chest tightened. He wanted to speak, to defend himself, but his throat burned. Then, as if the universe were listening, the plane shook violently with turbulence. Drinks spilled, lights flickered, and a man from the front collapsed, gasping for air. Panic spread. The flight attendant froze. "Is anyone here a doctor?" she screamed. No one responded. But Darius stood shaking. He pulled a small device from his bag, a portable medical monitor, something he'd built for a school science fair. "I can help," he said quietly. Melissa scoffed. "Sit down, kid, this is serious." But Darius ignored her, kneeling beside the man as the passengers stared. His small hands moved quickly, connecting sensors and reading heart rate irregularities. He remembered how his father had once brought him to the company's tech lab late at night, where Darius learned to program medical diagnostics from discarded equipment. "He's going into shock," Darius said firmly. "We need to elevate his legs." Following his instructions, passengers helped, desperate for direction. Within minutes, the man's breathing stabilized. The cabin erupted with relieved gasps. The pilot radioed ahead for emergency clearance. And as Darius stood, trembling, Melissa stared at him, speechless. She had mocked him for wearing a suit, unaware that he had just saved the life of the CEO of the same airline for which she worked. Cameras recorded every moment. Justice, this time, had witnesses. When the plane landed, Darius was escorted to the CEO's private office. The man he had saved sat smiling weakly, gratitude shining in his eyes. "You remind me of someone," he whispered, pulling out an old photo. Darius's late mother, once his former love before fate tore them apart. The truth hit like lightning. Darius was his biological son. The CEO embraced him, tears falling freely from his eyes. Days later, the airline issued a public apology and fired the flight attendant for the alleged discrimination. But Darius didn't care about revenge. He cared about respect. A boy once judged by his skin had been revealed as the son of power. Yet even now he wore the same suit, not for wealth, but for dignity. How many more must prove their worth before the world sees their humanity? Which country and city are you watching from? Take care.